Throughout British history, few stories are as charged with passion, ambition, and tragedy as the saga of the Jacobite Rebellions. These uprisings, spanning nearly 6 decades from 1688 to 1746, were not merely struggles for power. They were battles for the very soul of the British monarchy, pitting supporters of the deposed Stuart kings against the ruling Hanoverians. These rebellions ignited fierce internal conflicts that reshaped the political and social fabric of Britain. But what drove these wars? What fueled the Jacobite cause? And why did these rebellions end in such dramatic defeat? In this deep dive, we lines explore the complex history of the Jacobite rebellions and the profound impact they had on the British Isles. The roots of the Jacobite rebellions lie in the tumultuous years surrounding the Glorious Revolution of 1688. James II, the Catholic King of England, faced mounting opposition from his Protestant subjects. The English, Scottish, and Irish nobility were deeply suspicious of James's policies, particularly his attempts to reintroduce Catholicism into a nation that had been firmly Protestant since the reign of Elizabeth I. James's policies, combined with fears of a Catholic dynasty, led to a political crisis. In 1688, William of Orange, the Protestant ruler of the Netherlands, was invited by a faction of English nobles to take the throne. William's invasion was swift, and James II fled to France, marking the beginning of the Hanoverian dynasty's ascent. But in the eyes of many, James II was not just exiled, he was deposed unfairly, and his descendants still had a legitimate claim to the British throne. William of Orange and his wife, Mary II, ascended the throne, but their rule was never secure. The dethroned James II became a symbol of resistance for his loyalists, particularly in Scotland and Ireland, where Catholic support remained strong. James II's son, James Francis Edward Stuart, became the rallying figure for those who sought to restore the Stuart line to the throne. The first major Jacobite uprising occurred in 1715, led by James Francis Edward Stuart, who became known as the Old Pretender. After years of exile in France, James sought to reclaim the throne with the support of his loyalists in Scotland. This uprising, known as the 15, was fueled by a coalition of disgruntled Scottish Highland clans, English Tories, and Catholic sympathizers who believed that the Stuart dynasty represented the true British monarchy. James's supporters managed to secure some early victories in Scotland, including the capture of Edinburgh. However, the rebellion faced immediate challenges. The English throne was firmly held by George I, the first Hanoverian king, who was deeply unpopular due to his German origins and the perception that he was a foreigner in Britain, despite initial successes. The rebellion was poorly coordinated, and the Jacobites struggled to gain the widespread support needed to overthrow the government. The Battle of Sheriff Muir in November 1715 ended in a tactical stalemate, and the rebellion faltered. With the government forces closing in, James was forced to abandon his cause and return to France in 1716. The Jacobite cause, for the moment, seemed crushed. Despite the failure of the 1715 uprising, the Jacobite cause did not die. James II's grandson, Charles Edward Stuart, better known as Bonnie Prince Charlie, emerged as the new symbol of the Stuart claim. In 1745, Charles landed in Scotland with the hope of rallying the Scottish Highland clans and reclaiming the throne for the Stuart family. Charles's arrival in the Scottish Highlands was met with enthusiastic support from Highland clans, who had remained loyal to the Stuarts. In a remarkably short time, he gathered a sizable army and marched south, gaining momentum with each victory. By December 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie's forces were in control of much of Scotland and had reached as far south as Derby. Just 130 miles from London, the Battle of Prestonpans in September 1745 was a decisive victory for the Jacobites. But the campaign began to falter as Charles's forces moved further south, where they faced logistical difficulties and waning support. The lack of military aid from France, who had initially promised support for the rebellion, left the Jacobites vulnerable. The turning point came in April 1746 with the Battle of Culloden, the final and most devastating battle of the Jacobite Rebellion. Charles Edward Stuart's army, exhausted and poorly supplied, faced the well-trained government forces under the Duke of Cumberland, the second son of George II. At Culloden, the Jacobite forces were decisively defeated. The battle was a massacre for the Scots, with around 1,500 Jacobite soldiers killed compared to only 300 government casualties. After the battle, the Duke of Cumberland ruthlessly pursued the remaining Jacobite forces, effectively crushing the rebellion. Bonnie Prince Charlie, now a fugitive, fled to France and was never able to reclaim his throne. The defeat at Culloden had far-reaching consequences. The British government imposed harsh measures to prevent any further uprisings. The Scottish Highlands, which had been the heartland of Jacobite support, were devastated. The British Army carried out brutal reprisals, and laws were enacted that sought to dismantle the traditional clan structure. Highland dress was banned, and the use of Gaelic was actively discouraged. The Jacobite cause, though defeated, left a lasting legacy in the cultural imagination of the British Isles. The romanticized figure of Bonnie Prince Charlie endured, and the idea of a Stuart restoration remained a potent symbol for those who longed for a return to an older, more traditional form of monarchy. Yet, after 1746, the Jacobites were all but silenced, and the British monarchy was firmly entrenched under the Hanoverians. The Jacobite rebellions were a series of intense, tragic struggles, deeply tied to the complex intersection of politics, religion, and national identity in Britain. They represent more than just failed uprisings. They are a reflection of the turbulent transition from monarchy to constitutionalism, the clash between dynastic loyalty, and the rise of parliamentary power. The legacy of the Jacobites continues to resonate from the rolling hills of the Scottish Highlands to the pages of history. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the Jacobite rebellions. If you found this video insightful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth historical explorations. Until next time, keep learning from the past to understand the present.